in terms of Shiano, I honestly think that President Tate and AD Zinn have been looking around at the other big schools this year, and the theme has been you need to be a little impatient with your coaching staff. You look at Florida, a historically great school, and Napier, who has had his success at Florida and also had his failures, especially starting this year, they cut him mid-year. Penn State, James Franklin helped rebuild that school entirely. You cut him after some really bad losses. UCLA, they get this whole rebrand, especially with like NIL, because you bring in Yama Liava. You start off 0-3. That's it for your coach. And there's plenty of other examples, Oklahoma State, some others I haven't mentioned because there's just so many this year. So
you forgot to mention Arkansas going back to Sam Pittman, kind of doing the same thing that Rutgers did with Shiano returner.
Yeah, and there's one more I'm forgetting. I don't remember exactly which one it is, but that's my point though, is that it feels like there's been more firings mid-season this year than there has been in years past, and I think that when you look at the top schools doing this too, or the expected top schools that were ranked coming into the year doing it, I think that Rutgers, it's not necessarily impossible that if we lose to Purdue, you see a coaching change in the next few days after that. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if we win or lose. And if we lose, it'll be an interesting 24 hours.
Yeah,
I just want to touch up on that. My apologies, though. I just want to touch up on that comment you made in regards to there's a lot of mid-season coach firings. I just want to, do y'all think the expansion of the playoff is kind of rushing a lot of these coaches' clocks, since a lot of these schools are seeing that there's more opportunities for these teams to get into the playoffs and be successful, so it leads to a shorter leash?
100%. Because that's triple the opportunity, or no, it's double the opportunities. I'm not a math major, man, but it's 8 more opportunities, and a 4-team playoff out of 136 is a very slim chance. And so it would take a school 10 to 15 years to rebuild instead of in Indiana taking a couple of years to rebuild. And now all of a sudden they're a powerhouse. So yes, I do think that it is absolutely rushing teams, not necessarily because their season's over quicker, but because if you lose 3 or 4 games, then all of a sudden you're kind of showing that that's like a standard now moving forward.
I mean, I think Donovan's a great question. I think what's happening is, I think it's frustrating for coaches because you know what ADs are probably telling their coaches? Now, all you have to do is be in the top 12. So if you're not in the top 12, you know, you're a failure. So it's like at one point it expands the opportunities, but it also increases the expectations for the coaches. And, you know, with regard to Rutgers, though, they're not even in the conversation. And, you know, that running back for Oregon, I think his name was Whittington, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
The holes were so big for Whittington that I heard he actually ran back to Eugene and arrived there just minutes ago, because those holes were so massive. And it was like, it sends the message to Rutgers and its leadership. Okay, we lost to Minnesota, Iowa, and Washington, but we were competitive. Here, it was not even close, and it showed where we are and where the top teams are. And unless that gap is bridged, I don't think Kelly Zinn is going to tolerate this for more than a year. If not, she may make a switch at the end of the season.
And what do you guys think about Pitt Snipe Husker's comment here? It seems very interesting because, I mean, it's true. And at what point do you blame the players versus the staff? Those are the only 2 scapegoats left.
I don't think you blame the players, the staff, you know, in isolation. I think you blame the culture. What kind of a culture do you have where a team would lose 56-10 and be down 42-3 at the half? Rutgers is not that bad where they should be down 42-3 at the half. So the question is the culture a winning culture right now? And I'm not sure that it is. As much as I love Coach Shiano, I think that he's hit the ceiling of where Rutgers is going to go, and I think it's time for a leadership change. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, because even with NIL, I don't mean to expand my example here, but you can say the same thing about Rutgers football as you can say about Rutgers basketball when it comes to there not being in a winning culture, and despite having NIL attendance and facilities going up. Those are all great resources, but if you don't have it in a area full of winners, is not going to really bring anything. It's just going to show how nice your school is, but not really return any of the success that comes from having those nice amenities. And you can say that about Rutgers basketball as well, because they had two of the best players in the country, and they didn't even have a chance to make the tournament, let alone get through the first round of the Big Ten tournament. So for when it goes to Rutgers and just being able to have all these newer resources, being able to reestablish their higher ups in regarding to their presidents and new athletic directors, it's going to be a complete change from the ground up, and or honestly from the ground down if you're looking at just the how the corporate ladder is for Rutgers situation. But it's going to be built from the higher ups, and it's going to affect through the coaches than to the players. So right now they're only, I would say, just part one of what they're trying to do.
So let me ask you guys this then, and it's with all respect in the world, because of course you play football at LIU, but when you look at Rutgers and you brought up, bringing in winners instead of players that are good but not winning, what do you think? Do you think that necessarily we should change that approach to, instead of bringing up superstars from Ohio or JMU or LIU or what's the other one? There's one other school around the corner from here, I forget. Instead of that, do you think we should be bringing in like third stringers and fourth stringers from an Ohio State or a Michigan if it's about equal?
I would say most likely just try to still recruit in the area, because they are due to just what happened at Penn State. Their pipeline of south of Jersey, including Philadelphia, that whole area of the tri-state area, it's open now. It's an even game now.
Sure.
Those kids that were looking at Rutgers offers as the first opportunity than seeing Penn State, they've automatically flipped into Penn State. There's going to be a lot of thinking for those players now to stick with Rutgers due to just what Rutgers has currently. Because if you put the roster side by side currently, Rutgers looks better than Penn State at this time, which is something neither Gabe nor Adam would have said at the beginning of the year when we were doing the schedule predictions.
No.
But I digress. For Rutgers, I wasn't as against the transfers that they picked up, because they did a good job getting what they were able to get. No one expected a mid-tier Big Ten school to pick up a guy that had the second most sacks at FBS last season, Eric O'Neal. That's hard regardless. That's impressive at that time. So seeing what we're talking about, the transfers and how they're picking up the transfers, is very just hindsight. But overall, I see right now, just due to what's going on at Penn State, it gives Rutgers a huge hope in the future in regards to recruiting in their pipelines.
And you don't think they necessarily travel a few more hours west and see Ohio State as the new Penn State?
If they're good enough to go to Ohio State, they don't even think about going to Penn State.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I think also I kind of like to make analogies sometimes. And a football team is kind of like, in one way, it's kind of like dating. You go out with somebody on a first date. You go out with them on a few dates. There's either chemistry and you're like, this is the one, or you're like, no, it's just, I like this person, but it just doesn't seem like a good fit. The chemistry on a football team has to be like the person who thinks that the one they're dating is the one. Because guess what? Unlike in the dating world, you cannot break up with them. You're with them for the entire season. And what I'm seeing at Rutgers is I don't see the chemistry.
The only player I see taking accountability on a week-to-week basis is Athan. And that's why he's one of the two captains, him and Jordan Walker.
Jordan Walker has been talking, has been holding a lot of accountability as well. I won't
Yeah,
lie.
I saw that
Being able for both of them to even look at the media or even take questions after a loss like that says a lot about their character, and just being able to say that, yeah, we lost today, but we're going to go back to the drawing board and try to recoup for next week. A lot of players in that situation, especially at home, at a homecoming, a lot of people in the stands not even being from your fan base. That's very tough on the mind of young athletes. So that was impressive by both of them.
Yeah, Jordan Walker said he was sick to his stomach, which that's a good summation of how we all feel. And the thing is, whatever we say or can say, unfortunately, they already know, that's the reason why we're going hard on Shiano right now, or at least going hard on Kelly Zinn or the athletic department in total, is because they know what we know, but things haven't necessarily changed.
Well, I mean, I think the reason that they're sick to their stomach is because if you looked at that game, a lot of their big plays came on 3rd and long. All right, so it wasn't, Rutgers was getting them in 3rd and long positions and then lost in the secondary. No pressure on the quarterback. And I don't care who you are. Rutgers is not so bad as to be down 42-3 at the half. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you because if you even look at the game, they were able to cause a turnover on Oregon on their first drive.
Yeah. Now I'm going to say something, and Pit Snipe Huskers raised this. I believe James Franklin should be hired as the next Rutgers coach. He is a program builder. He's a very good coach. He has local ties. And I think that he would be a perfect fit because after getting fired at Penn State, Franklin is not going to get hired by Florida, or he needs to go to a team that he can build from the ground up and make his own. I think he can do that at Rutgers.
Florida's already kind of been in the rumor mill for him, though.
Florida wants to be in a situation where they want to be at the top of the SEC. James Franklin is not going to get them there.
Totally agree with you.
Well,
that's it.
If we're talking about how Shiano has reached his peak, James Franklin would raise us, but he wouldn't bring us home.
James Franklin is going to get 4-star recruits. And I think James Franklin, and I hate to say this because I love Coach Shiano, I think James Franklin might be a better fit for Rutgers at this time.
Yes.
And I think it would be the kind of cultural fit with Rutgers, because cultural fit is important for a coach. Franklin is not a cultural fit with Florida. Just like Brian Kelly really isn't a great cultural fit with LSU.
Yeah.
But Kurt Cignetti is an absolute wonderful fit with Indiana. And being able to determine when there's a cultural fit is really hard, but it can make the difference between a good program and one that's elite.
And you got it.
And for James Franklin, I said it as well in this regard. I agree with you on the fact of just how Franklin is a program builder, and he's done this in a similar situation before, not only doing it with Penn State, but doing it with a team like Vanderbilt and bringing them to relevance back in the early 2010s. And he could do the same thing with Rutgers under NIL, being able to be in the same type of situations of recruiting in the same areas, not being so far away from recruiting Pennsylvania, as well as, to be completely honest, the new system of how the rankings are, and especially if Rutgers is able to get Franklin and potentially have the opportunity of making a playoff berth. College football playoffs are built for coaches and systems for teams such as James Franklin. That's the main reason why he was able to make it for the first time last year when they extended the spots. So adding James Franklin is going to be able to put Rutgers in that tier of, okay, we can potentially be in a rank. We can potentially get to the top 25. We can get into there because James Franklin has done that before with multiple teams.
Yeah, and I think Franklin, he's the kind of coach where he loves his players. He loves to be a mentor. He invests in his players.
Players love him way more too.
Yeah, and he has a family and he has children. And does he want to take his family all the way across the country, or does I think there's a level of familiarity here, both in location and recruiting, that makes him. And believe me, Rutgers, I almost could guarantee it, even though I have no knowledge of it. I bet you the AD at Rutgers would say, James, we're handing you the key to the football program. Whatever you want, you get. Whoever you want to hire, you get. So it's an attractive option for him and not necessarily a demotion.
And by the way, I'm totally on board for bringing in Franklin. I'm just playing devil's advocate because if all three of us just talk about how much we want him, no one's going to be the yeah, but guy. But the only thing I will say to end the devil's advocacy is we talk about not necessarily lack of NIL, but lack of where it needs to be. If we've switched from Shiano to Franklin, he's costing $3 to $5 million more because Shiano's getting like $5 million a year. I mean, I seriously think that if Franklin came here, it would be 8 to 10 million, up to maybe even 11 or 12 per year.
Well, if you want to marry the girl that you love, you don't buy her a cubic zirconia. You buy her a beautiful diamond ring. And Rutgers is going to have to put up or shut up.
And also, due to the current situation and just a moniker that James Franklin has on him, as from just the media and just overall how his record is when it comes to being in big games, I feel like you're going to be able to possibly negotiate that price from 8 to 10 million to possibly from 11 to 12 million to potentially 8 to 10 million a year, because just due to a lot of teams are looking at him as somebody it's not going to get them over the hump. So that's why I don't see a Florida going after them. I genuinely don't see any other big name schools in the SEC or potentially in the ACC if they're looking for coaches as well, let alone the Big 12. The Big 12 are not even involved in it. All their coaches look amazing. So James Franklin is in a situation where, one, does he even want to coach again? But if he does want to coach, who was willing to take that chance on him? And due to the fact of taking that chance, I feel like he wouldn't mind taking a pay cut, knowing that he just made $50 million just doing nothing.
And by the way, you asked, does he want to coach again? Part of his clause of getting his buyout is that he does seek to coach again. So I think he wants that money specifically for that reason.
Well, on College Game Day, he specifically said he can't wait to coach again. But here's the thing. I could see two scenarios unfolding. I could see the question with Franklin is going to be when Rutgers picks up the phone, is Franklin just going to outright reject it and say, no, I was a Penn State coach. I'm not doing that.
Well, does he feel that loyalty anymore, though?
Or is he going to say, all right, let's explore this? The other scenario is this. Eli Drinkowitz from Missouri goes to Penn State and Franklin goes to Missouri. I could see that potentially happening because Drinkowitz is in the running for Penn State.
I can see that too. Missouri kind of in the same situation that Penn State was in at the beginning of the year, where they're like that mid-tier team that could try to make a lot of noise. And even with the loss to Alabama, they're still in the running for the SEC. It's any man's game right now. Even the Vanderbilt Commodores, just want to shout them out real fast. Shout out to Diego Pavia. But back to Rutgers, I will say that I feel for James Franklin that Penn State kind of turned his back on him. Seeing how James Franklin left that final game at Northwestern felt very significant of how. Remember when Andrew Luck retired mid-game? Mid preseason game, and everybody was booing him on his way out the door, even though he gave them. Gave them so many years of hard work and effort and success to that team. I feel like that's the same thing for James Franklin. They waited until he got into the they booed him off the field. Wait till he got to the tunnel and booed him again as he was walking through the door chanting "Fire him." Yeah. So I honestly don't see that loyalty still being there, and if it is, that would be very surprising.
It's like how Knicks fans wanted Tibbs gone, and then when he left, they were shocked.